Hey James, I'm doing good. How about you, man?
Doing good, sir. Thank you. How's your day going? Your morning?
Not too bad. Yeah, just went for a run this morning and then been in the office a little bit. So yeah, it's been good.
Thank you, sir. Well, I really appreciate you taking time out of your day. Probably busy, so I really appreciate it. And thank you for taking time to talk to me.
Yeah,
Mhm.
no problem.
Yeah, I was wondering, just first starting off, I was wondering, how's work going for you, sir, and how's the adjustment been?
Yeah, the work's been interesting just with over now almost the last year since COVID really hit in the United States. And so it's yeah, it's been challenging and definitely different. And there's been a lot of adjustments, being made just with the number one priority trying to create a safe environment for our kids if we're, during the times that we've been meeting for practice. And so yeah, that's been a super challenge. And but yeah, that's kind of been a lot more focus on making sure that our kids are not getting sick and they're really safe, and a little bit less of some other things that might be going on in a normal year for us.
Got you. Nice, nice. I was wondering, where were you born and where did you grow up?
Yeah, I was actually born in Georgia.
Oh,
And I lived there till I was 8 years old, but then I moved to the state of New York. And so I'm from Corning, New York. And so I grew up there is where my upbringing was. And yeah, I consider myself a New Yorker for sure, but I was born in Georgia.
got you. How many years have you spent in New York?
Well, I lived there through high school, and then I went to college in Virginia, and then moved from Virginia straight to Arizona when I started working here as a coach.
Got it. Okay, nice, nice. I was wondering, where did your story and passion for running came from, and where did it start in your life?
Yeah, I wasn't introduced really to running too much until high school. But there was a little bit of background there. I was actually a pretty big baseball player. That was where my
Okay.
passion was, not running.
Oh, got it.
And but my dad ran. He ran at the University of Georgia. My grandfather was a world class runner. My a couple of my most of my uncles competed in track and field in college, and so there was some background there. I just never was super immersed in it as a kid. And yeah, I did a couple like turkey trot 5Ks when I was 10, 11,
Right.
12 years old or something, but I wasn't training. I didn't know anything about running, but I just did them. And I would have goals like I wanted to beat my uncle, like that was my goal. I didn't care what my time was. I didn't know what times meant. But yeah, and then I went to public high school. I was homeschooled before high school, and I went to
Oh,
public high school mainly to uh, not only for the academic piece and getting ready for college, but to play baseball. And going into the fall, my dad suggested, he's like, "Hey, you're probably going to be a little bored if you're not doing stuff. Why don't you do a fall sport?" And he suggested I do cross country, and I said, "What's cross country?" I didn't know what it was. But he said, "Hey, you run 5Ks, you just do it on the grass instead of the road." And so I was like, "Oh yeah, I remember doing 5K." And yeah, so I joined the team, and I did not know that would make me turn me into like a running nerd, running geek, running monster. Like I didn't know any of that stuff was going to happen, but it did. I had a great time, and I really love my team. I love my coach, and I attribute a lot to my introduction to running, and that turning into a passion. Attribute that a lot to those people that are around. Particularly to my high school coach and to my teammates at the time. So that's where it kind of all started.
awesome. This is great to hear. I was wondering, how's your transition going to doing homeschooling and going to a public school?
Yeah, it's funny. People probably have a lot of preconceptions on what it's like to be homeschooled, and I'm one of seven kids in my family, and all of us were homeschooled for a period of time. Some
Right.
some for more than others, but yeah, I was homeschooled through high school, and my experience was really good. But I that was mostly because of my mom.
Mhm.
who was teaching us, she just did an incredible job. And so I was a little nervous going to public high school just because I didn't know what it would be like. I had no clue. I'd never been to a public school before, and I quickly found out that I was really well prepared. Like I crushed it, starting in high school. And I was like, wow, my mom had me ready. And so my transition was fantastic, and it really helped having being on the cross country team and having made some friends and stuff before the school uh, even started. And so that helped with my transition a lot too. So yeah, my mom did an awesome job getting me ready, and thankfully, the school I went to was a good school, and I was surrounded by some pretty good people. So I was really fortunate.
That's awesome. Huge props to Mrs. Cornfield. That's amazing. I was wondering, was it kind of hard for you to transition into like from your passion from baseball and then getting into running, like quitting?
It was, yeah. I spent a lot of time, and granted, I played baseball from when I was 5 years old to 15 years
Oh
old.
wow.
So, but I was a little kid, but I loved it. I really really loved it. I was a 6-year-old kid who would beg my dad to go to the batting cages every single day, or like beg him to go out and like hit me ground balls. I just like I was a really competitive little kid who was pretty skilled with hand-eye coordination at a young age. And so but there was a switch inside me that I just I wanted that. I never was my dad making me do anything. It was always me, like, hey, please, I want to have a catch, I want to do more and more and more. And so I loved baseball, and it was hard to transition. And my freshman year in high school, I did cross country, and I ended up doing really well, and everybody was like, "Hey, you should do indoor." And I was like, "What is indoor?" I had no idea what indoor
Oh, okay.
track was. I didn't know that existed. And so I did indoor track, but then, yeah, I remember having this tough conversation with my dad at Home Depot. I don't know why I remember that, but um, I was like talking to him, and I love my experience with cross country and indoor track so much, and with my team, that I was like, hey, I think I might want to do outdoor and not play baseball. And I remember him just telling me, hey, my recommendation, this was coming from my dad, was like, hey, I think you should give it a year, and if you don't want to do baseball after that, that's fine. But like, I think you should just give it a chance here in high school, and see what it's like. And so that's what I did. I trusted him, and I played baseball my freshman year in high school. Um, yeah, it was. I loved the sport, but at that time in my life, my experience with the people, my teammates and my coaches, was so much more positive and fun on the cross country indoor
Right.
track side of things. And baseball was tough. I started on the varsity team as this little tiny freshman guy, and so there was some resentment from some older players on the team that I was starting as a freshman, and there were some seniors on the bench, and so I never felt super welcomed. And whereas in running, I was absolutely the opposite. I was the number one guy for our cross country team that year, and
Oh,
I
nice.
was welcomed, and they loved it, and really treated me well. And so
For sure.
that really was a big part of leading me to go full time into running, starting my sophomore year in high school. But it was mostly because of the people and the experience that I was having at the time, and the relationships I had. And so, and I see that even at higher levels, and anywhere, the relationships and the people that you're surrounded by are gonna dictate largely probably the experience that you're having.
Right, for sure. Yes, sir.
But I
Yeah.
love baseball. I still I had the Atlanta Braves are my team. I love
Great.
them a lot, and I watch almost every single game. So yeah, if
Right.
you were asked my wife at home, she's like, yeah, he's still very into baseball.
Got you, for sure. Yeah, just definitely like a lot of people can definitely relate to just the aspect of like just how good like the or like can relate to like the people and the relationship and the community of running is definitely what it's like one of the best part of like the experience in running in high school and also above high school as well. And just like the community is something different than other sports. And I agree too, because like I played a lot of sports before, doing cross country and track, and definitely say just something with like the community of like running and also just a super welcoming sport as well. Just accepting from like doesn't matter like how fast or how slow you are, it really matters about like kind of like your the work you put in or just your hard work and just the enjoyment of doing it or your purpose of doing it. was definitely very yeah, welcome, and just definitely the community and people is like definitely like top people. Or I definitely see from my experience like a lot of the cross country track runners are definitely like some of the like nicest people that I met and know. So definitely something special with the running community people.
I agree.
Mhm. I was wondering, so you graduated from Liberty, major in sports management, and you ran for Liberty as well. And you went to
Mhm.
NAU for grad school for educational leadership. I was wondering, what would you say is like the biggest thing that you learned and grown from your experience in college and as an athlete or a person in general?
Yeah, the when you go to when you're college aged, when you're 17, 18 years old, the time period that you're in college is such an important one. It's for your personal growth and
For
where you're
sure.
at in your life. And I look back at my maturity as a freshman in high school versus a senior in high school is a
Mhm.
huge difference. And then
For
I
sure.
look at back at my maturity from when I was a freshman in college to a senior in college is a huge amount of growth. And you're learning how to deal with situations and be responsible for things, and a lot more on your own with dealing with relationships and connecting with people. And
Right.
so I think that time in college is such a huge part of your growth as a person. And
Mhm.
even now, I'm 29. It's not like that was super long ago, but I'm like, man, I know a lot more as a 29-year-old than when I got out of college. It's this but that period of time in college is kind of when you're really first jumping into adulthood. And so
Right.
um so for me it was so much more um learning how to have positive relationships and connecting with people
Mm.
in this time. And I was away from home, so I was responsible for my own time, for what I was doing. I was responsible for everything for the first time. And so I really enjoyed that. And there were challenges. There were a lot of challenges during my time in college, as an athlete, and dealing with trying to figure out this thing called life, and questioning a lot of things. And but that's what I think is so valuable about college. And so and I was really fortunate where I was just surrounded by some really good people, when I was really being challenged as a person. And so I more than anything, I think I learned the power of the support of people, and also how I could be that for other people. But man, I was this young, immature kid, and it was awesome to go, through this experience where during those times when you don't have your parents right there, and you don't have the people that you're used to, that there are these other people that you were surrounded by, people like my roommate and some of my teammates and others that really helped me grow during that time, and were so encouraging. And so college is a tough experience in many ways. It's never this like smooth, easy thing. It's a roller coaster, and there's highs and lows, and it's really hard if you don't have a good support system, when
Right.
especially when you're going through the lows. Because the highs, it's easy. You know what you're going to do during those times. You're going to be great. But it definitely, my experiences in college definitely led me to think about a career in coaching, and pursuing this. And thankfully I had that opportunity at NAU as a graduate assistant. And I'll forever be grateful to Eric Hines for giving me that opportunity. And so, but my thought was like, hey, I'm going to be in this position where I'm going to be able to work with young adults who are going through all that stuff too, and to have, to be someone that's a positive influence in their lives through this platform, was something that seemed really attractive to me.
Mm. Yes, sir. For sure. Definitely like in college, like one of the biggest things, just like personal growth and really growing as a person and really transitioning to like adult life and life after college for sure. And really trying to figure out especially what you want to do, or just learning from just different experiences and moments for sure. I was wondering, what would you say is like the biggest challenge that you face in college, and how do you come it?
When I was in college,
Yes, sir. Mhm.
gosh, I don't the biggest one. Yeah, I'm not sure about a biggest one. I mean, it's always
Mhm.
easy to pinpoint injury, which is
Sure.
something that I had a lot. And even for me, I had a kind of a career-ending injury right at the end of college,
Wow.
where I broke my back, and I had a pretty serious, um, yeah, back surgery right at the end of my time, and so that was certainly challenging, kind of dealing with this thing, this thought of like I might not have running ever again,
Mhm.
personally, and it was something that I just dove into for the last 10 years and was so passionate about, and had these goals, and so that was particularly really challenging to go through that, and realize like, hey, this might be over, and I had this back surgery, and I've never felt the same. Like I've never like had that feeling of fitness and running that I did before that, and um so that was particularly challenging to go through, and just to know like it kind of just like that it's all
Mhm.
over, and it wasn't anything that was even necessarily like your fault or you did something really wrong. It's just the body's not really fair sometimes, running's not fair, and I think we can grow so much in this sport because of that, because it's so unpredictable, and it's so yeah, and it's not fair sometimes, and people get really upset about that and really yeah, bent out of shape about that fact of our sport. But ultimately, I think it forces us into situations that make us grow, and that's a
Sure.
great thing.
Mhm.
But yeah, that was pretty challenging. I mean, breaking your back and kind of going through major surgery type of stuff is
Mhm.
challenging. I had just gotten married. I was in my fifth year in college, and this is supposed to be your best, last year, and I didn't have that fairy tale ending, and so but I'm really grateful for that experience, because it did help me grow a lot, and ultimately, if I hadn't broken my back, I wouldn't be at NAU, because of the timing of how I got this position. And so I'm super grateful that I went through that, even though it was super challenging.
Got you. I was wondering, like, what always seems like the biggest thing that like helped you overcome like the mental aspect of it, because it must be like super tough for you mentally, just running for such a long time and running D1 and having putting this so much work in and having that drive and that passion and dedication, and all of a sudden that being taken away must be definitely really tough mentally. And with that experience, like as a position that you have right now as assistant coach and having these young kids and that may grow through some injuries, something similar. To just the mental aspect of it, mental health. I was wondering how can you like pour that down from the things that you learn and things that helped you over to these young people.
Yeah, I and I have a different, probably a more mature perspective now, and I probably will have even more mature perspective in a few years from now. That's how life works. But um, it forced me to really value the pursuit of what I was doing, and not necessarily just the outcome of what I was, what was going to happen. And this sport, it's not this thing where like, hey, the person who runs the most miles or puts in the most work is gonna be rewarded the most. It's not how it works.
Right.
And certainly there's people who, yeah, they do buckle down and they put in a ton of work, and do get rewarded in
Mhm.
some outcomes. But I think the best reward is if you can truly find value in the pursuit of what you're doing, in the process and the journey of what you're doing. And that's so much, people can say that, and it's really easy to say that's what you value, but it's harder for it to be actually true and here.
Right. For sure.
Um, and so, yeah, going through something like that, I was like, I remember I had this period of time just of a lot of reflection, because all of a sudden I wasn't running. I knew I was having the surgery, and so you're just thinking a lot.
Right.
And my career was far from perfect. I was far from perfect. All these things, but I actually remember having gratitude that I was able to just pursue this, have the chance.
Mhm.
And it didn't turn out in my own personal running the way that I would have loved, or the way that I would have hoped. In if you just are thinking in terms of outcomes, like how fast you run or what you were able to accomplish. But um, I was able to actually find a lot of value in just, hey, I was able to do this with certain people. I was able to challenge myself. I was able to grow, and it's hard to be just satisfied with that. But ultimately, I
Right.
think the older you get, the more value you find in
Mhm.
that. And that's not to say you shouldn't have big goals, or try to pursue big things, but I think the way that a certain outcome is possible is if you actually don't fixate on it too much, and you fixate on how can I just do what I can today and enjoy that process today and challenge myself today to move the needle forward into tomorrow.
Mm.
And so it really forced me to reflect on that, and I think that type of perspective is it's easy to, again, easy to say, easy to talk about, easy to say yep, that's me, but it's even harder to for that to be real in your life or in your process. And that's the most important thing, more than just saying words. And so it's fun being able to do that now as a coach, and trying to instill that in athletes, and teach that, and see that played out.
Got you. Wow, that's amazing to hear. Awesome. I was wondering, how did your interest in sports management came to be about, and like, did your interest come like at a like kind of early age, or what state?
Not really. I mean, I changed my major, so I guess
Oh,
no.
oh, okay.
Yeah, you know, it's funny because it sounds like a major that's like, oh, that you probably learned a lot about coaching and sports management.
Mm,
Not really. It
okay.
was far more like the business aspect of the sport industry, and
Oh,
I did enjoy it. I'm passionate about sports,
mm,
and so it was fun learning about marketing and sports communication and journalism and all these different avenues within the sport industry, because sport has become this big big business in many ways,
sure.
throughout the world. And so it didn't it's funny because if I was really honest, it didn't prepare me that much to be a coach. Psychology degree would have probably helped me a lot more be a coach, but it was something I enjoyed. I really enjoyed the subjects and the learning. And so, but yeah, I didn't actually go into college with that major, so I can't say like I knew exactly what I wanted to study academically right away, and was able to just discover that a little bit more throughout my first couple semesters exploring different courses. And so, and that's the case for a lot of athletes here at NAU. They'll change majors, and
Mm,
that's totally okay. It's exploratory, and you kind of want to find something that you're really interested in. And some people maybe have a plan from the very get-go, and that's okay too. Everybody kind of comes into it with a different mindset. And when I got to school my freshman year, and my first day, I didn't even know what classes I was in, to be honest. I just like
mm,
showed up and was like, all right, what do I do now? And just figured that I would figure it out. And
mm.
maybe that's not what everybody should do, but yeah, I didn't have this like set plan of this is what was going to happen.
Got you. How about for going to graduate school? Like, what made you decide to go to grad school and get a master's degree in education leadership at NEU?
Yeah, well, I had this, I really wanted to coach. Like that's what or at least I wanted to explore coaching. I thought that it was something that I would love, but
Mhm.
obviously I never actually experienced it. So I wanted to be in a position where, yeah, I want to see if this is something I want to pursue.
Mm,
And so I was looking for any opportunities at tons of schools. I sent so many emails, and
mhm.
it's really hard to get into coaching. It is.
For
There's
sure.
probably a lot more people that want to be in coaching and not a lot of positions. And so I was really fortunate where I had a phone conversation with Eric Hines, who was the director at NAU at the time.
Mm.
I didn't know him. I didn't know anybody at NAU. I'd never been to the West Coast before, no
Oh,
connections here. And I had a great conversation with him. And then a couple weeks later, he sent me an email and said, "Hey, we had a graduate assistant that decided to not do this. Like, and I really liked our conversation. Do you want that position?" And I was like, "Yes, please." And so yeah, it was way more like I wanted to pursue the coaching. And it's really cool that the NCAA and some schools have these graduate assistant positions where you're able to get a master's degree and continue your education while also getting coaching experience. And so
wow. Awesome.
that's a not every school has a GA position, or some schools have multiple GA positions. And I was just really fortunate where that was the case. And so in a typical graduate assistant position, what happens is they pay for your school, so you don't have to pay
Okay.
for your classes. And then a lot of times schools will give you like a small stipend, to kind of monthly stipend to get by and pay your rent and things like that. And so that's
Awesome.
what I had here. And worked, and you work as a coach. And so it was really cool to have that opportunity, and to be able to get a master's degree, and get 2 years of coaching experience here.
Oh wow, that's awesome. That's very interesting because I haven't heard about that, and it's great to hear about that. That's interesting. Cool, cool. I was wondering, can you kind of explain like what like drove you in for your interest in coaching?
Yeah, again, like I said, I went into college and I didn't even know what my classes were. I changed it's not like I knew I wanted to be a coach then. And I was this kid who was, very, I got very into running. I knew, yeah, I educated myself proactively on this sport and the people in this sport, because that was just something I really wanted to do. And so, yeah, in college I really started to see the structure of what it was like to be a part of an NCAA team, and the impact that coaches can have. And definitely it really started with the impact my high school coach had on me. But then, yeah, to see that, in the NCAA, this is what they're doing, full time, and this is a job, and you get to, yeah, have this whole team and a great budget a lot of times at the Division 1 level. And so I was like, man, this is pretty cool. But ultimately, I decided I wanted to pursue it because I just saw it as a platform where you could really intimately work with people. And something that, because when you're in college, you're really exploring, I think, what you do want to do,
Mhm.
potentially. And that doesn't mean that can change in life, but usually you're thinking about it a lot in college. And so when I thought about it a lot, I was like, okay, no matter what I want to do, what I do know is I want to work with people, and not just in a like, hey, I barely know you kind of way, but in a, hey, we're really digging into real stuff, and building really strong connections. And I felt like I could have more impact with people in that way. And so I saw coaching at the collegiate level, that fit that platform, like where you get to build really great relationships with people for 4 or 5 years, and you get to work with them about with something they're passionate about, and I'm passionate about it too. And so, yeah, that was super intriguing to me, and something I felt like, hey, I would love to pursue that. And in coaching, it's yeah, it's not like, most coaches don't get paid a lot, and most coaches, yeah, sometimes it's just really hard, and you work a lot of wonky hours, and you're going to races on weekends, and sometimes, it's not normal.
Mhm.
And so it's certainly not for everybody. But I thought, hey, that might be something for me, and let's see if I can pursue that.
Mm, got you. I was wondering from like all your experience and time at Liberty and NAU and the journey that becoming assistant coach for like the best running college team out there. I was wondering like for people in high school or in college or just graduate that has an aspiration for coaching and running, like what can they do now and work on now that would best prepare them to get like a coaching position at the collegiate level?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I get that question a lot from people. Because I get emails quite a bit from people, who are like, "Hey, how'd you get into coaching? I'm interested in coaching," and I do my best to always try to respond to those, and talk to those people, because there were people, who did that for me, and people I didn't even know, that I have so much gratitude for.
Mhm.
And so I do my best to do that, even though I might not necessarily be the one that's able to help them get a position, or maybe I am. But it's, one, it's really hard. It's really hard, because, like I said, there's limited positions and more people that want to do it than you probably think. So I think it's just important to understand that. But two, if you really want to do it, go for it. And I would say that in anything in life, right? Like, if you really want to do something, then just go for it. Like, I was like, I decided I want to do this, and I worked really, really hard just to get a chance,
Mhm.
right? Like, you do that in running. You work really, really hard just to get a chance to maybe do something special and discover more about yourself. And so, yeah, I mean, I was calling people, I was emailing coaches, and most of the time, what you're gonna hear is no. Like,
Right.
no, there's not anything available. I'm really sorry. I wish there was. Like, no, like that's what it's gonna be most of the time. Um, but if you get just one yes and one chance, that could be everything. And that's what I was really fortunate to have. And it took me 11 months, and some people it might take less, some people it might take more. But it wasn't, I just like got on the phone with Coach Hines, and 2 weeks later and it was all set. It was like 11 months of emailing and trying to connect with people as somebody that they didn't know. Jared Cornfield was a nobody. I wasn't this super fast runner in college that everybody knew. I wasn't. And so, um, and then when you get those opportunities to connect with people, you got to make it count. You got to make an impression. You gotta be someone who they feel like is like, I get off the phone and I'm like, man, that guy or that girl was really cool. They made an impression on me. And so you have to be able to do that as well. But I think the biggest things are yeah, talking to people and first understanding what it's actually like. What are the ins and outs? What do you actually do? What are the things that are really rewarding? What are the things that are really challenging? Like kind of diving into, yeah, really what those things are. And if you're a collegiate athlete, you can ask your coach that. You got people right there you can talk to and start to find that out from. But then and I think another big part is just connecting with coaches and putting yourself out there, not being afraid to do that. Not being overbearing, but being proactive and being following up when you haven't heard with people and trying to get on the phone with people. But yeah, then you gotta make an impression. I think you gotta bring some really good energy, and you gotta be really, I want to hear the passion that like, hey, you really want to do this. And
Mhm.
but then you also gotta be able to hear the word no a lot and just say, hey, I'm going to do this until I find something, and not put a time limit on that, or not say like, hey, it's easy to get discouraged in it. And so but yeah, I would say like find out a lot, try to find out what it's actually like, and see if that's still something you want to pursue. And then just you got to put yourself out there a little bit and try to connect with people, and you'll find that a lot of coaches in this sport are more than happy to do that. And maybe you won't get responses from some people, and just try not to get discouraged, and keep your head down, and move forward. But it's certainly a tough yeah, industry to crack into, for sure. But it can be super super rewarding when it actually happens for you.
Right. And the way you like kind of identified of like very limited spots, like definitely for like running coaching, there's not many like a lot of coaching position like other sports, like basketball or football. Um, but yeah, I was wondering like, what do you say for like from your experience as a coach and other coaches, like everybody has different stories and different paths, but I was wondering like, is a lot of them maybe come from like high school coaching and going to collegiate level? Do you know by any chance?
Sometimes you get everything, yeah, everybody kind of has a different story. I think though, no matter what, the people that are coming in are working really hard at connecting with people and working on building their experience and learning.
Mhm.
And that could come, you could be a high school coach, you could be a middle school coach, you could be a college coach, you could be at any of the levels. Like you could, and that's the thing, it's not just Division 1 coaching out there. There's Division 2, there's Division 3, there's all these collegiate structured coaching positions that are available. It's definitely hard to crack into to various levels to at different degrees, but there's a lot of different things. And sometimes I think a mistake that people, they just narrow in like, hey, it has to be Division 1, it has to be on the West Coast. They make their window
Right.
really small. And I think you gotta be a lot more open. And
Mhm.
I there's you gotta ask yourself why you're doing this, right? Like
Mhm.
and for me, my why is these people, having relationships with young college age student athletes. And I could do that at any level, in college. And I'm fortunate where I get to do it in such a special place like Flagstaff, and at the Division 1 level, and with athletes who are at a super high level.
Mhm.
But you can do that in many situations. And so I would say have a really open mind, when you're doing that. But yeah, I think people tackle it from all different directions. I would say most, particularly distance coaches or even other coaches, they were athletes themselves at one point. Or most throws coaches were throwers at one point, most sprints coaches were sprinters. But that doesn't have to be the case. It's not always the case. It's not a requirement. But I would say that's probably a large percentage of coaches out there. But where you start, is I don't think matters that much. But if you do want to be specifically, if you're like, hey, I'm really passionate about college coaching, then I would say try to get an opportunity at a college, somewhere, and just yeah, be tenacious, and put yourself out there and try to build connections, and hopefully you'll find something.
Got you. And like you mentioned, like I didn't realize that like a lot of the majority of like coaches for the collegiate level, they have some sort of like high level of running either experience of like coaching or like running in college. I was wondering like someone that has no experience of like running in college, but has that drive and that passion, but did not have the opportunity or the ability to run at a collegiate level. I was wondering, like it must be kind of difficult in terms of like not having that kind of experience of in coaching or sorry running in college and compared to other coaches that might go after that position or jobs that have experience in running at a collegiate level. I was wondering, what do you think are some ways that would separate from them from the other applicants that in that position with not having like a collegiate running experience?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's it's certainly not to say that every coach has collegiate running experience, and I think a
Right.
lot do, but even then probably at really different levels that,
Right.
it's not like all coaches were super fast. It's just actually probably the opposite of that. Most coaches,
Okay.
we probably weren't super fast. And fast is all relative, right? But
Right.
um, yeah, I mean, the I think why you see many coaches that ran collegiately is because they were just passionate for the sport, and you can, if you want to run, you
Mhm.
can run in college. It doesn't matter how fast you are. There is a place for you.
Okay. Mhm.
And so I think that's why you see that. But even if you didn't, I don't think that's like a that disqualifies you. No way.
Uh,
Coach Gags, Coach Gagliano, who coached with the Hoka New York, New Jersey club. Like, he wasn't a runner; he was a football coach before. He's one of the best,
wow.
pro coaches out there. And I haven't. I've never met Coach Gags. I know people who have run for him, and that, man, they think he's the best, and he's produced really really great runners. Like, he had a football coaching background, and so it's not like impossible. I think it's more just like, hey, if you want to do this and you want to pursue this, then you're going to make strides to educate yourself and to connect
Mhm.
yourself, and that doesn't necessarily mean you had to have been a collegiate runner or even a runner at all. But I just think that the natural pathway is that most people find this through doing it, and it's such an open sport. I mean, there's more track and field athletes and that compete in high school than any other sport by numbers, and so it's a very available sport, and I think it's a very pure sport that caters to any type of body type or personality. Like, it caters to everybody, and that's what's such a special aspect of this sport. And so um yeah, I think if you want to pursue being a coach, it doesn't matter, if you actually did it yourself. It just matters if you're taking the right steps to grow and to, be in a position to be a good coach, for these athletes, and have the knowledge to be a good coach. And so that's the most important thing.
Very interesting. I say. I was wondering, being in the position as assistant coach and being with with these young athletes and runners and having that relationship and connection with them and being present sometimes in their highs and lows and different unique like as a person and also as talent level wise. I was wondering like what we see is like the biggest thing that you learn from these young people and these athletes, the student.
Yeah, I've only been coaching at NAU, and this is my sixth year here. Man, these are just some. I'm so lucky to be around really really special people that are on this team, and it's fun. I mean, I just feel so privileged and have so much gratitude that I get to be in a position where, yeah, I'm building relationships with these student athletes and recruiting them, and then getting to work with them here. Man, I've just been surrounded by a lot of young men and women that are really special, that I believe in, that I just have so much gratitude that I get to work for them, or yeah, get to work with them. And so, yeah, I learn a lot from them, for sure. It's not just like, hey, you're a coach and you don't learn from your athletes. I love that we've had such a large diversity of people and where they've come from and their backgrounds and the culture that they've been immersed in. Like, that's I've been able to learn a lot just from people who have grown up in really different ways than I grew up, or grew up in a really different place than I grew up in. And I love that, and being able to connect with that person and still find common things, and find ways that I can grow,
Mhm.
by having a relationship with that athlete too. And so, um, yeah, I feel super blessed. These are really some really cool people we get to work with, really really
Sure.
awesome people. And so I try not to take that for granted. And the fact that I get to go out to practice, and see them every day, and interact with them, and do that, and be a part of their life. I That's an immense privilege. And there's a lot, I feel, large responsibility for taking care of them and doing my best in my position, to help them have a great experience here. And so it's super special. I can't say
Sure.
enough
Right.
that I'm super privileged to be at a place like NAU, and get to work
Yeah.
with the types of young adults that I get to work with.
Right. And it's awesome just having that, opportunity to, mentor and just guide these, young student athletes that are, are curious or still exploring and going through different, levels in their moments in their life, and having the opportunity, for them, or just for them, these young people to look up to, the coaches, and coaches huge, aspect, of, why they go to a certain college, and trying to learn, and grow as an athlete and a person from, people like you. I was wondering, do you remember specifically the phone call you had with the director of the NEU, and if so, like, what kind of like what was the conversation like? And I was wondering, like, what you think was special and something that really stood out from that conversation with the director,
Like when he said when he offered me the graduate assistant position, is that what you're asking about?
or through the phone call and the conversation before that you got the position.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's funny because it was after my back surgery. And so I was doing all these phone calls in bed. Like
Okay.
I had a back brace. Like it felt so weird because you're trying to have this like formal conversation, but I'm
Right.
like laying down in bed.
Mhm.
Um, and so I remember that's what I was doing. I was laying in bed and talking to Coach Hines, and we talked for 45 minutes. And just, yeah, he just asked me a lot of questions, and I got to ask questions. And it was a really good conversation. I remember Coach Hines saying, "Hey, you're great," and he was like, "Hey, right now, if you want to come volunteer for us, you can, we'd love to have you, but we want to make sure you had a job, or something out here. And so if you, but he also was like, hey, it sounds like you're gonna find a better position than this too. So like, no pressure, no nothing, but we really like you." And so I remember feeling really good after that conversation, and just like, wow, that was really nice to hear. And from a director at a great program like that. And so, and then, yeah, it was about 2 weeks later, he just sent me an email about, the graduate assistant backing out and going to do something else, and offered me the position. So I remember I was, I was in bed because I was for like a couple months. And I kind of slowly sat up, which was a whole ordeal. And I looked at my wife and I said, "Hey, I think I just got offered a job." And so I was just kind of shocked, like reading this email, like, whoa, I might actually have something here after almost a year. And so, yeah, we set up a time to call and talk about the details, and we did. And I said yes. And so it happened just like that. But yeah, you don't get a lot of moments like that, right? Where
Right.
you pursue something so hard, and like, oh, you hear like, yes, we're gonna pick you, and that was a pretty cool moment to see that realized, for sure.
Gosh. So if you don't mind asking, how did you hurt your back?
That's a good. I don't know. It
Oh,
wasn't
wow.
like an acute injury. It wasn't like I hit something or
Mhm.
fell and it broke. I was racing cross country in the
Mhm.
fall of 2014, I think, and so it was my fifth year. And 2014 or 2015,
Mhm.
one of those years. And I ran a meet at in Charlottesville, Virginia. So the course, I think we're actually going to have the national championship there in a couple of
Right.
years.
Mhm.
Yeah, at the University of Virginia. Um, and it was rough. My back was really hurting during the race. My hip was really hurting, and it did
Uh,
not go well. And so um, I'd had some hip injury stuff my sophomore year. So I
mhm.
remember after the race, like, hey, let's get some imaging and just see if your hip's okay.
Mhm.
And I got an X-ray of my hip and my back, and usually they, you know, you have to get an X-ray to then get an MRI. So a lot of
Right.
times athletes will get X-rays that don't show anything because it's pretty hard to break bones. But in this X-ray, they showed a very clear fracture in my L4 in my lower back.
Wow.
And so they're like, hey, wow, we did not expect this, your back is broken. And so yeah, they, you know, my curvature in my spine was a little weird, and so the doctors kind of speculated I may have had a broken back actually for quite a while, and it just kind of
Oh, wow.
progressed over time to a point where it really showed itself. But yeah, really strange, you know, not super common. The surgery I had is, you know, as a young 20, I think I was 23 when I got it. It was not common for a 23-year-old healthy athlete. And so,
Right.
yeah, it was more just of an anomaly a little bit. And again, I could have just been like, why me? And but I think I was able to have a pretty good attitude through it and just say, hey, these are the cards I've been dealt, and I need to see how I can be, you know, have the most gratitude through this. And yeah, it was challenging. The surgery really hurt, and it was a tough recovery. And but yeah, it was cool to have a moment where I was literally laying in bed and couldn't move very well. You know, where I got offered my first coaching job, and so I'll always have like actually a lot of gratitude looking back at that time.
Got you. Wow, that's crazy to hear. Wow. I was wondering, like, there's a lot of high school students out there that want to run for like big schools and wonder how they can like separate themselves and run for like NAU or Stanford, BYU, these top programs and have these big
Yeah,
dreams. I was wondering, like, it comes down to like for sure like times and your grade as well. I was wondering, like, what are some advice and goals that you can set for these people at in their high school or even middle school as well that they want to pursue their goals and dreams?
yeah, I get asked this question a lot,
I
and
bet.
like I'm kind of like here at NAU, like I kind of lead up the recruiting, so I do so much of this stuff for NAU on both the men and the women's side. And so um, yeah, I get I get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of emails from high school athletes like, hey, what are your standards? What it'll take? You know, these are my, I get a lot. And um for the top schools, because you asked like places like NAU,
Yeah,
BYU, Stanford, it's really hard. It's
for sure.
super, super hard. And that's not to deter anybody, but it's yeah, the best thing is to run fast. I mean, that's the thing that's going to help you the most, because I kind of, schools like and I can't speak for other schools and how they recruit, but like here at NAU, for our men and women, it's at a really high level. Our men, yeah, they've won 3 national championships in the last 4 years. Our women were 14th in the country last fall. Like these are, it's a really high level. And in our philosophy, we usually don't have this ginormous roster size either. We usually stick to around 20 distance athletes. And so that makes it even harder to sneak in there,
Mhm.
because we don't want to just have 35 athletes and kind of train them really hard and say, hey, let's see who makes it through. And if you don't, then oh, well, we gave you a chance. That's just not our philosophy. And so, yeah, the biggest ways to stand out is to perform well, and it's really challenging for the kids right now because they all got their outdoor season taken away.
Yeah,
Some of them didn't have your normal opportunities in cross country this year. Like I really feel for the high school kids right now because it's super challenging, and it's not their fault.
mhm,
But yeah, but I think other ways, there's certain kind of benchmarks like, hey, if you haven't run in the range of these times, then NAU is probably not going to be a good situation for
mhm,
you, because of the level of guys that we have on this team. You could run 14:16 for 5K, which is really fast, and there's still a guy on this team that's a minute faster,
yeah,
and so it has to be a good situation for you, and we have to really believe and feel like that you can jump up to this next level and this high level of NCAA Division One. But then outside of that, I really want to see people and hear from people who this is what they want to do.
mhm,
And that might sound really simple, and I think if you are in a room full of a bunch of high school athletes and you say, hey, who wants to be good,
mhm,
everyone probably raises their hands. But to be good at this level takes a whole nother type of, I think, mentality.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not for everybody, but it's also not a bad thing that it's not for everybody. Actually, I think our athletes, they all have the little crazy screw in their brain, like to want to pursue distance running at this level. It's
Uh-huh.
super hard. It hurts. It's not easy. It's also super rewarding. I think it's so special, but it's really not for everybody. Like I've even seen us have athletes here who they get here and I think they realize it's not for them, and it's really hard to admit like, hey, this isn't for me, because you tell yourself, hey, if I stop this, I'm a failure or I'm a loser or whatever, when really in reality it's like, hey, it takes a lot of bravery to say and courage to be like, hey, this isn't the right thing for me, and I want to pursue something that is better for me. Like that's a great thing. And so I think it takes a really particular athlete to be a part of this team. Now, like I said earlier, there's 300 something Division 1 schools. There's Division 2. There's so many levels at the collegiate level that there
Right.
is something that if you want to run, that will fit you.
Uh-huh.
It's just NAU is a really small niche of the type of athlete that is a good fit for here, and that's okay, right? Um, and I think it takes someone who really wants to, who's passionate about exploring the limits of their running ability, and so notice how I didn't say who has a goal to break 4 minutes in the mile, or to run 10 minutes in the steeplechase for a woman, or like it's not necessarily like, hey, these are the things I want to do, but that they're really like, no, I just want to scratch every single piece of like how good I can be, and I want to be in the best environment to do that, and with people that are going to challenge me, and people who are going to support me. And I don't know what that ceiling's going to be, but I want to like explore it, and that's where my passion is. And it's hard to find those people, because I think especially in high school now, kids are really driven in. I mean, like uh, you know PRs are the most important things ever, and all these things. And I think it takes away from, I think you limit yourself a little bit with that type of mentality, or you put yourself in a situation where, yeah, you're going to probably have a lot of anxiety, or build all the stress and pressure on yourself, which is so easy to do in our sport. And we have to try to get people that are executing and exploring and continuing to move the needle forward at a really high level, and trying to alleviate that stress and anxiety. And it's never going to be perfect, and you're never going to do that 100%, but it's a super challenge at this level, because these kids can put so much pressure on
Right.
themselves. And so if I get a kid, man, um, I recruited this individual last year, and that's going to be a freshman in the fall. And I won't say which person this is, but like I remember having phone conversations with them where I was just blown away by their mentality of like, and maturity of why they were doing this sport. And it was for a lot of the things I said. And I was blown away. I was like, we have to have this person. And I don't say that very often ever, and so, and it's not someone who's ranked really high at the time or anything like that. It was just like I saw this spark, and I was like, this person is going to be really good. And they did run really well this fall, and they were never considered by anybody. And so, um, yeah, I think that's a big way to stand out, and just to try to have opportunities to showcase your character and your personality to coaches. And I get a lot of kind of robotic emails now, and kids will use recruiting services, and it's just very like I'm not getting a sense of who you are at all through these
Right.
emails, or
Uh,
through this communication. And it's hard because I have I have limited time to spend. I can't just talk to every single person on the phone that ever emails me, or um, and so you do have to kind of be at a pretty decent level for me to get on the phone with you. But if you have that opportunity, like, just showcase your personality and character, and try to be loose, and try not to be like nervous talking to me. Like, I promise I'm a normal person. I don't bite. Like, I'm not, I definitely have kids that are super nervous talking to me, and I get it. You're talking to, you're
right.
talking to NAU, and you might be super nervous, but
Uh-huh.
just try to be yourself, and showcase your personality and character, and be authentic. Like, that's what connects with
Sure.
me is, just someone who's really authentic, and is just like talking about their passion, and what they want to do. And maybe that doesn't link up with what we're looking for, and that's okay. But maybe it does. But ultimately, if you're taking a really authentic approach, you'll find the right fit for you. But man, I didn't know all that stuff as a 17-year-old in high school. Like I don't remember what I was like on the phone talking to coaches, but it probably wasn't super smooth and all these things. And I get that it's hard and it's not easy to know what to say, but just try to be genuine. But ultimately, yeah, to run at a place like NAU or BYU or Stanford or Wisconsin or whatever those schools are, yeah, you gotta show that you have some real high level ability to run, and that you probably even have some more ability to get better in college, because even really fast times in high school, if you run those same times in college, they're not that good anymore.
Right.
So you have to show that in some ways that you're somebody who's going to be able to grow and adapt to the type of level that's at the Division I level. So it's hard. It's really hard, and it takes a lot to get on a team like ours.
Gotcha. Wow, such an amazing answer. That's amazing to hear. Yeah, for sure. Just how you mentioned of like how some people can be just so PR oriented and like kind of put their mindset in not the right place and not looking at like the true enjoyment of the process and the true purpose of the enjoyment of running can definitely be straight away. And just mentioning how like you just got to put everything out there and truly passionate about it. Because I think sometimes like some top runners or might like they're super talented, but they might not have like that full passion, that driven, but they might just do it because they're really talented and good at it. But definitely that passion, that true passion, that drive, and trying to like figure out like how much you can push yourself and become the best runner you can be definitely separates some other runners for sure. And that's great to
Yeah.
hear. Yeah.
And one other thing I think that would separate you from other people is if you're all about team. Like if
Oh yeah.
you are talking like, hey, how can I come in and have a role with NAU? Like, how can I help this team like be better? Like that, if that's the way you're thinking, that's different, and it might sound really simple, but most kids, you're like, hey, I want to go somewhere I can be the best me. And that's part of it. Yeah. But like, I want someone who's passionate about like, dude, how can I want to be on a team where like I'm able to be in an environment where I'm building relationships and connections, and like I'm helping my team be better. And that's like such an important and special thing for me. Like I don't hear that very often. And that's something I would get super fired up hearing, because it just shows like you're thinking, you're going to other people, and we in certain ways in the sport you do have to be selfish, but man, when you're on a team like this, you can get so much when when you build these connections with people and you're able to go to them when things are hard. Like we tell our guys and girls, like, in a race, when it's really hard, you're going to have a plan for what you're going to do when it gets hard. And a big part of that plan is you go to your teammates.
Right.
You think about your teammates. Like, you're like, man, and it has to be like this authentic connection and relationship with team, right? Because you can't fake that. When you're at 8K of the national championship in cross country, got 2K to go, and it's really hard. You got to hold on for your teammates. Like, when you go to your team and you have an authentic like love and connection with them, that's powerful, and that's something that can get you through the last 2K. And so if I hear from high schoolers how passionate they are about team and what they can add to that, and they're all about team, that's something I want to hear too.
Sure, that's 100. Yeah, that's something like very special for sure, and like sometimes can be very like minor, like just individual oriented and just for their personal growth or personal what they want to get out of. But definitely having that mindset of humility and really thinking about teamwork and really growing and having that personal relationship of working as a team is definitely something very special, like you mentioned. Um, I was wondering for like you play such a huge key in recruiting. I was wondering like how's it been like you mentioned, it must be super difficult of like and kind of difficult recruiting where they don't have a lot of opportunities right now to run and stuff like that.
Yeah.
How's that been?
It was a super interesting year with recruiting, because of that, and particularly the outdoor season getting taken away,
Oh, yeah.
particularly for, the juniors who are now seniors who are deciding where to go. Like, they didn't have that track season like that.
Definitely.
That is just so hard. And so yeah, like it put us in a tough situation to try to figure out who we think is going to be really good in college. Um, but it was super unique in that one, we didn't have any official visits. People could not come to campus and visit like normal, so you didn't get to spend that 48 hours, hanging out with the team and getting a feel for what it's like to be in Flagstaff and around us coaches and around this team. And so that was hard, that opportunity was taken away from high schoolers. But what was really interesting is, like, I don't think I've ever signed as many people as we did, at the early signing day in November, because part of it was because, hey, we did a lot of stuff on Zoom and getting to know each other, but there became a point where there's like, hey, there's nothing else really to learn. Like, we can't visit campus, and we've gotten to know the people, and that's what decisions were being made off of. um, and so yeah, it was really interesting in that way. But um, yeah, I think it forced the process to be all about the people that you're going to be around, and I think that's the most important thing when deciding about a school, like more than more than a lot of other things, because I think your experience is going to be dictated by, like, hey, do the people you have, or the people part of this program, going to have your back and support you, and so yeah, it was definitely really challenging to go through that recruiting process with this senior class. And but yeah, we were thrilled to get, we've gotten 5 guys committed and 3 girls, and on the distance side, and we're really excited about this class. Like, we got some really special people coming in, and we know that, even though some of them haven't even stepped foot on campus before. And so yeah, it was hard to do it all virtually, and it's still happening now with the next class. And and who knows what the future for them is going to be in terms of visits and things like that, because the NCAA recruiting dead period is through April 25th right now, I believe. So basically through the end of this semester, and who knows if that'll open up again or not. And so yeah, it's really hard, I feel, for these kids. But um, you know, I think again, it goes back to, if you have an opportunity to talk to a coach and showcase yourself, like, just be really authentic and your personality, and do what you can do, on the running side of things. Like, you don't control that this meet is canceled or that meet's canceled or your state has decided this. Like, that's out of your control. But just try to maximize and take advantage of what you do have control over. And it's hard, like, time trials, like I are, time trials or races that are really different, and they're not ideal.
Right.
But I think I would love to see someone, just with an attitude of like, hey, you know what, this does suck, but I have no control over that, and so I'm really just trying to focus on what I can do, and I'm going to do that the best I can and take advantage of that and continue to see if I can move the needle forward and how I'm progressing as an athlete, and in this sport. And I think you can totally do that even during a time like right now. And so yeah, I hope that there's races, particularly this outdoor season. I know there's some races during this indoor season for high schoolers, but for some, a lot less opportunities. But I hope people are able to showcase, what they can do this outdoor season. But I know it's challenging, and I would just say, do your best. That's all you can do. And so yeah, it'll be really interesting from a recruiting standpoint for us, kind of in this next class as well. But yeah, again, I have to control what I can control too, and right now I can't control certain aspects of the recruiting process, so I'm using the ones that I can control.
Got you. All right. Well, it's about 1 hour mark. I was wondering if it's possible if I can have some more questions prepared. I was wondering if it's okay with you with the time. I don't know what's time.
Yeah, sure, shoot away.
I appreciate it, Mr. Cornfield. I was wondering, was there any adjustment of changing, with this difficult time in different, totally different compass and change of recruiting? I was wondering if anything you approached differently or changed up, the talk with Coach Mike Smith about recruiting in this difficult time.
I mean, we didn't change, like, for us, it's still the most important thing is really getting to know the people that we're bringing in, and more on a personal level, like way more than necessarily what they're doing with their running. That's a big part too. But we're still able to figure a lot of that out, even virtually or and things like that. And so it took a little bit extra effort, but I think the goal remained the same. Still trying to find the type of people who are the right fit for NAU, and I think we were able to do that and are going to continue to do that. But yeah, we are just had to do that a little bit differently and not in person, and it's better in person for sure. But but I think we were still able to accomplish finding the NAU kid that's going to really excel here. And I think we've been here for a few years now and have it a lot more dialed into, I think, who that kid is. And so thankfully, if we had just been here for a year or two, it could have been a lot more difficult having all of this thrown in with having to just talk to kids via Zoom and phone calls. But I think since we've been here a few years, we got it pretty dialed into what we're looking for. And so yeah, there were challenges, but I feel super confident that we're in a great place with our recruiting. And even though, yeah, we're really good, we always want to keep the pedal down and keep never being complacent about where our program's at, and always trying to get better. And a big way you have to consistently do that is in recruiting. And so more than anything, just not letting our guard down, and always keeping the gas pedal down, because we never want to be complacent with where we are.
Gotcha. I was wondering for recruiting, like I realized and found this kind of interesting of like how some of the runners that get recruited for sometimes big programs, you kind of mentioned before, like don't run like insane time like their other teammates and other people on the team. But I think a lot of coaches see a lot of personal growth and of them
Hmm.
growing so much and can contribute and help the teammates later on in their next couple years of really transforming. And some people like transform like or grow a little later on. And I realize that sometimes like for pros or a lot of big people who perform in college didn't or not like like the top like insane best or like top three in high school, but they just grow so much. I was wondering if that's something that you see in recruiting of not just having like the best times, but also seeing like a lot of personal growth that this guy might not run like in the same times, but I see a lot of growth that he can contribute to NAU.
Yeah, and well, first, I never can predict the future, right? Like we don't know what's going to happen. But yeah, there's a big sense of, yeah, what's this athlete, what could they potentially do in the next 4 years, and there's different signs, I think, that indicate um you know a real positive chance that happens. But again, you're never perfect with that, and you never know. But yeah, that is a big part of recruiting. And we have both. Like great example is Nico Young's on the team. Like Nico Young was pretty good in high school. It was pretty easy to see that this guy's pretty special. And but then, yeah, we've got guys on the team where you might be surprised at what their PRs were, when they signed to NIU, or, and we have, yeah, it takes a lot of time in the recruiting process, I think, to find that. A lot of phone calls, a lot of asking the right questions, and a lot of, yeah, looking for those types of things and who they are as a person. And certainly there's bits of that you can see with their training, or different pieces. Like I think a great example for us in the same class is this guy we got, Santiago Prosser, who's from Alaska. So right there, I'm like, okay, you have way less opportunities to run fast than everybody else because you're in Alaska. You're not in Southern California where you get to race in beautiful weather all the time. And this kid, we were really impressed with his cross country state championship meet. And so you're like, okay. And it wasn't, I don't even know what his time was there, but I watched the video of it and I was like, that kid's really good. And we talked with him, and what was really cool is he really bet on himself and decided to come here over some other really good schools and some really good offers. And so um, yeah, and he ran a race in Oklahoma State this year and beat. If you go back and look at those results, you'll see he beat some other freshmen that were really good in high school that everybody knew their name, and
Right.
nobody knows this guy's name, and so we're excited about any guy that we bring on the roster, whether they're a Nico Young in high school or maybe you don't know their name very much. But yeah, it takes a lot of time on our part to build relationships with those people, to identify those people, and sometimes you're right and sometimes you're not as right as you thought. Like, it's all these things. And I think the most challenging aspect with that is just the athletic scholarship piece,
Right.
because
Mhm.
it's hard to just give money to guys based on how good you think they're going to be,
Mhm.
or a girl how good you think she's going to be, because that's it's hard to, you're getting into some real murky waters with that, and particularly on the guy side with less scholarships than women are offered at the Division 1 level if you're fully funded. It's really tricky. It's really, really tricky. And so I think the guys who are like that, if they're at NAU, um, you know, there's lots of guys that wanted to come to NAU that didn't end up here, and maybe that was just this other school was a better fit. Maybe it was scholarship. It could have been a bunch of things, but the scholarship is always a big factor for a lot of people usually. But it's really cool when guys are like, we've had guys come to NAU for less athletic scholarship than they're offered at other places, and that's so special to me, because it's like, hey, I'm betting on me, and I want to be there because I think that's the best place for me, and that's really cool when that happens too. And that doesn't mean like I wish I could give athletic scholarship to everybody and make their financial situation really comfortable, and unfortunately, we have certain rules and limits that we have to adhere to, and we can't do that for everybody. And everybody's coming from different backgrounds where money might mean, money might not be an option, and money might be the most important thing. It's everybody comes from a different place there. But I think that's the most challenging thing, just making it work for them to actually come here. But I love it when I see a person who I think is going to be really good and under the radar, and they're like, yeah, let's do this. But it's also tricky to be we want to be as fair as possible with the athletic scholarship piece, and that's always challenging.
Gotcha. Roughly, is there like a amount of limit of like freshmen that you take in, or do you know roughly how many people do you take in?
Yeah, it could be different just on a year, depending on how many people we're losing. Like I mentioned earlier, that we usually like to have around 20 men and 20 women on the roster.
Mm.
This year I think we have 21 guys right now and 23 women, or 24. So it can change a little bit. But we don't want it to get up towards 30, and we feel like 20 is a number that gives us good depth, but also gives us a small enough roster where we're still able to really build relationships with people. Because if we have like 60 people, we just feel like there's people we couldn't really get to, and they're just not going to have a great experience, and that's not what we want. Um, so yeah, with that being said, most of the years I've been at NAU, it's been somewhere between probably 3 and 6 guys. Something like that. This year we have 5. Last year we had 4. This year I had 4, and then the year before that 3. So it really changes. I think the year before that was 4 or 5. So it's usually in that range. COVID's going to make it really interesting because a bunch of these people have extra eligibility.
Uh-huh.
you know, like Coach Smith and I were talking yesterday, and next fall we're going to have 13 guys that have freshman cross country eligibility
Oh, wow.
that are from 3 different classes, because some of them redshirted, and then the COVID this year it didn't. It's wild, and so that'll make it really interesting for years to come. But
Mm.
yeah, we kind of look at things year by year, and kind of base it off of that, and obviously interest, but it has to be the right person.
Mhm.
And so if we're at 23 athletes and there's somebody like we need to have them, they're the right fit and they want to come here, like we're totally okay with it being up to 24. Like it's way more about that than anything else. But yeah, probably 3 to 6. I always like even numbers if I can.
Okay.
No offense to this class of 5 guys so far, but like it's always just easier from a roommate pairing situation,
I
that you can room them all together, but you can't be too picky. We're gonna work it out even if it's an odd number. So,
gotcha.
but yeah, 3 to 6,
All right, that's nice. So I
and
realized,
same on the women's side too.
oh, okay. I realized that for like people in high school is that choosing for college, it's either some of them it's either like number one is coaching or just their financial situation and money wise. I was wondering if you don't mind me asking about like, can you kind of explain of like there's something like the situation with scholarships and giving out, and I know like a lot of like top runners or a lot of runners in general are like really good academics, so like they use their academic maybe scholarship and they have the opportunity to use that scholarship to someone else. Like, can you kind of explain that process?
Yeah. So academic scholarship's going to work differently institution to institution. And so, different schools will probably have academic scholarships that are available. Here at NAU, ours are pretty simple and they're really great, which we're super fortunate to have. And so we can, let's say you get a scholarship that's, because you have a 3.8 GPA, you get this scholarship and it's worth 20% of what it costs to go to school, right? Whatever that dollar amount is. If then we could give you 20% scholarship athletically and you're getting 40% of your school taken care of. So it's nice you can kind of combine some of those things. But each institution is really different. I'm sure the Ivy Leagues are really different. They don't do any athletic scholarship, but like it's way more. They have tons of need-based aid, but then it's really hard academically to get into those institutions. Like everybody's going to be different, and so you want to find out from those coaches like, hey, academically this is where my standing is. What do you think potentially I could get academically? But being a strong student helps a lot. It does help a lot from a financial standpoint because you're way more likely going to be able to get some academic aid right on top of that. And coaches want good students. We really do. We want people who are going to take care of business in the classroom and have a great academic experience. And so we definitely look at that. Like it makes it much harder when you haven't taken care of your school and high school for you to come here. So that's super important. But yeah, so the academic, I would just ask each coach like, hey, what's the academic situation at school? Like, this is where I'm at. Like, what are opportunities potentially for academic scholarship there? And I look at that stuff all the time for us. And so yeah, and then on top of that, it's yeah, trying to the level every school, our school, what we might offer somebody is going to be different than somebody else. It's going to be different than somebody else. It's all different. And if we're offering you athletic scholarship, one, we have to really like you. We gotta want you on our team and feel like, we want to invest in you, because I view scholarship as like, I'm offering it to you. You're not like, and so for us, like we stick to those commitments and we want things to work out. Like you don't see a lot of people transferring out of NAU. And we want people to like have a great experience here and us to take care of you and fulfill our promises, from scholarship to a lot of other things. And so it's yeah, scholarship's really, really hard, and it's something that no school's going to be perfect at, because again, we can't predict the future. But we're going to do our very best. But ultimately, another reason we keep a small roster here is our one big promise to you is like, we're going to take care of you. I don't care if you're a walk-on that's on zero athletic money or on a full scholarship. Like, we're going to take care of you. And so that's the big thing. We want you to have a good experience, and that doesn't mean we're going to be perfect as coaches. That doesn't mean you're not going to have some bumpy times, or it's going to be really challenging. But at the end of the day, we're still going to have your back, and we're still going to have build in lots of layers of communication to build connection and relationships, so that experience can be a great one.
Gotcha. Interesting. I was wondering, kind of curious about like the full scholarship situation. Like I heard, some like this guy like did really, really well in high school, like one of the best in the nation and super top, but didn't get full scholarship. I was wondering what
Mhm.
the situation of full scholarship, like how often or how rare is it to give out full scholarship to your class and other programs as well?
Yeah, well, I can't exactly say, who's on how much, or even how much we
Definitely.
give. I would say, there's people that have gotten full scholarships before. Full scholarships a lot, and it takes up a lot, particularly on the men's side. You have 12.6 scholarships total for your entire track team if you're a Division I school that is fully funded.
Okay.
Um, and so, we're really, we're blessed to be a fully funded program. But that's 12.6 scholarships to distance, to sprints, to jumps, to throws, to your whole roster, that's your
Oh,
limit is 12.6. And so a full scholarship is like a big deal, and you got to be really good. Um and and yeah, and in some years, maybe we don't have a full scholarship. Maybe the best guy in the country, we really want you to come here, and this is what we got. And if you want to come be a part of a great team, and you know it's hard, it's really hard, and timing is a big thing. But I try to we try to take care of people the best we can. And but we want people that want to come here. And we've had people not come here that got money. They made it about money and went to a different place for just a tiny bit more. And I'm like, that's
mm,
kind of I just don't,
right.
it's hard for me to see when people make a decision just based off of that. But I get that money is a big factor, and it could be really stressful, and all those things. But um again, I think the fit here at NAU is the person that really wants this. And so you're not going to let anything get in your way. And we're still going to do, we don't take advantage of people. Like, we still want to do our best to spread that scholarship out. And yeah, we don't put all of that money into distance. We put that into some of the other events too. And so it's challenging. Some people might think we just put all of it into distance. It's not true. But yeah, it's and the level you have to be is even higher. With our roster right now, if you looked at our roster, like, wow,
Crazy.
how did they pay for all those guys? Some of those guys are here for less money than you'd probably think, because they have chosen to pursue what they think is the best situation for them to be the best runner over maybe some dollars. And so
Gotcha.
um
Mhm.
yeah, so it's definitely hard. But yeah, I would say full scholarships are rare. They're, some, I've heard some schools maybe say, oh, they don't give anyone full scholarship. I don't know what other institutions
Right.
do.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think more than anything, we try to be as fair as possible with trying to be the best team that we could be. Because if we had tons of people on a full ride, guess what? We wouldn't be as good, because we wouldn't have as many guys as we have, and they wouldn't have as good of experience as they're having right now,
Mhm.
being this good of a team and having this many teammates to train with and to do life with. And so yeah, there's certain concessions sometimes that have to be made to come to a school like NAU. And we yeah, I mean, if you're a full ride guy at NAU, you got to be like insanely good, the whole time you're here. And so, but we also we'll like increase scholarships, when people get, like, we try to reward people as much as possible. It's just, yeah, tight windows when you're working with 12.6. And every school has the same thing, when the same, like, problems or issues with trying to do that. And so, no, but it's not like NAU is the only school that's dealing with this. It's everybody out there.
Gotcha. Yeah, when I met you at state championship, I saw kind of a glimpse of you, just connecting with the athlete and just their family, and you just do it in such an amazing way. And just you can see it's very, genuine and just very personal. Of just talking to him very genuinely and just personally as well. I was wondering, like, what are some of the conversation? What is the conversation like? Just interacting with, trying to make it, genuine and personal, in relationship with the athlete and also the parents as well.
Yeah, well, thanks for saying that. I appreciate that. I think I try to make the process about them, and I could get on the phone and just talk about NAU the whole time and geek out about what we were doing, and we're NAU and blah blah blah. But like, I do my best to just try to talk about them a lot, and yeah, we'll dive into, yeah, what training's like here, and NAU. Like, you need all that information. But I think, I want to find out about them, and it's their process. And obviously I'm trying to see if they're going to be a good fit. Like, I have to, like, open the door or invite them if we want them to be here. And Coach Smith has to always feel that way about somebody. But yeah, I want to make this process, like, one, be really authentic, not try to be some, yeah, like, hard guy to approach or hard guy to talk to, or somebody that's really closed off or secretive or too high and mighty for you. That's not what I want to do at all. And yeah, just try to see if I can connect with kids. And it's hard. Like I said, I probably didn't know what to say when I was 17 years old, and I was really immature then. And so I take that into account when talking to people this age. But Yeah, I have a, I just try to dig into them and make it authentic and be myself. Like I say, hey, the person you're talking to on the phone now is the same person you're going to get when you come here. Like it's got to be, I've got to tell the truth. I've got to show you the best I can what it would be like to be here. Because if you did come here, you're going to find out anyway. And so if I lied, that's terrible. And so, but yeah, I just try to figure out what makes them tick, try to figure out their, their character and who they are and what they're looking for. And I've learned how to ask certain questions. I think that dig into that, and it takes time to figure out kind of how to do that. And with 17-year-olds, but just making it about them, and that will give me, I think, a good idea of if that's going to be a good potential fit for us too. So
Gotcha.
um, that's what I try to do the best I can.
Got you. Yeah, when I was out, yeah, at the state championship, I was just amazed, like when you're talking to certain athletes, just like, and you just do your job so well, and just like you're really good at just like connecting with people in a genuine personal way. So I was really amazed when I saw that, and it's great to see. I was wondering, in terms of like when you go to races, right, and like a lot of coaches, like I was wondering, like, what do you normally see when you race? Is it just like their form mechanics, or just their position and placement, or just the way to execute a race?
Yeah, it's, after, watching so closely races,
Uh,
so many races for so many years, you start to look for certain things. And um you can almost like especially our own athletes, because we're around them all the time. We know how they tick, we see them work out. Like in races, it's almost like I know what they're thinking. Coach Smith
uh,
knows what they're thinking. Like you can almost, like, you can see what's going on in there. And in high school, I look for similar things. Like you can tell so much by just looking at somebody, what they might be thinking. And so yeah, I'm looking way more at like how they're engaged in the race, the decisions that they're making, um, the fear or the absence of fear that's there. You can see a lot of that, when your eye is really trained. And so yeah, I think I'm evaluating way more the how they're going through the process of this race. And that, I think, can show you their heart a little bit. And yeah, and it's hard. You were there at the California statement, like you were talking about, is like madness. It's just people running everywhere, and so
right.
you can miss some stuff. Um but yeah, and then having the opportunity to talk to people face to face, and you catch a lot more of kind of who they are a little bit, than over the phone. And so it's super valuable to us in trying to evaluate who we want to be or invite on this team. And so yeah, that was particularly, that was super valuable there. Talking to Nico and Skylar Wallace too, and Tori Gaetan, who we got
Right.
three athletes that were there that day. And so um, yeah, it's super valuable. I think that face to face time. And as a coach, you gotta grind in recruiting. You gotta fly to meets. You gotta, and different schools have different budgets for that and different priorities. But yeah, I mean, I'm usually super busy. I went to the California State meet, to NXN, I was gone 3 straight weekends, and sometimes you don't get any of those kids, and sometimes you do all this work and you get right to the finish line and you don't get them. You get second. I've gotten second a lot, and you don't get anything for second, but you got to keep going, keep doing it again. And if you want your program to be really good, you gotta grind in recruiting. And you gotta really, I mean, I really enjoy it. I love it, and I'm so passionate about this program and the people that we have here. And so for me, it's not hard, it's not work. Um, and I really enjoy that stuff. And so and you can help change somebody's life. I think I'm really biased, but I think we have a great thing here. I think we've got the best coach in the country in Mike Smith. I think
I
I
agree.
think we live in Flagstaff, Arizona. It's such a cool opportunity here. And again, we're not perfect, but dude, it's a really special opportunity for these kids, I think, to be a
Sure.
part of this program. And a large part of that is because of the kids that we have now and what they've made this program to. Um, and so, yeah, it's so special for me when I get to actually say, "Hey, we want you here," and they say yes. Like I imagine if that was me in their situation, that
Uh,
would be like such a cool moment. And so to have influence on that is something I don't take for granted. And I want to make sure that I'm doing my homework right, so that this program continues to move forward, and we keep having the right people here that are going to have great experiences.
Got you. Nice. Is it kind of the same thing as like NXN or like what you mentioned of like what you see in races? Because I mean, I bet it's totally different level in terms of like nerves of like these kids and
Yeah.
just running. It's like insane. But yeah, I'm just curious about like the NXN situation. Also, it's kind of like towards the end of kind of like recruiting as well.
Yeah. NXN NXN's interesting. One, it's always miserable weather.
Oh yeah.
So it's like this added factor of like, okay, it's that you're putting the most pressure on yourself. And it's really tough weather, and it's the best field in the country.
Mhm.
There's all these Nike pros watching you.
Right.
There's a lot. Yeah, you see a lot. I mean, it's all mind games,
Mhm.
when it comes to that type of level. And so, and for us too, like right, the NCAA championships, and it's all about trying to find athletes who can get to a mental state where we normalize that stuff, right? Like,
Okay, for sure.
and we do a lot of teaching and talking about that here at NXN. Like, yeah, you get to this meet or that meet or the Olympic trials, the Olympic games, and you still do the same warm up, and you're still in the same, it's just like really normalizing things, and so that you can put yourself in a mindset of execution. So yeah, I see at NXN, I definitely see people freaking out. I see people that are, you see a lot of times, you go look at the top 10 of both of those races, you'll see people in there, you're like, who, how? And it's
Right.
probably just because like they didn't have any expectation, they just ran it. It was like, whoa. And you see every year you see people who are really, really good that fell off. And most of that's probably because of, pressure and anxiety more than, their body, and so it's a really challenging thing in our sport, and stuff. We work with our athletes still all the time.
Mhm.
And I think the people that are able to manage that and to get rid of the pressure and the expectation and to focus on the right things are people who are going to consistently do really, really well.
Yeah.
But yeah, you definitely see that at those high levels, and but you also see people just crush it too. It's our sport is really fun in that you never know what's going to happen, and there's all those things that are occurring. And so someone like Nico, right? Nico had a ton of pressure on him. Everybody was expecting him to win, and he went out there and crushed it. And he's a really level-headed kid who's really mature for his age. Um, and so it's yeah, you definitely see a lot of really interesting stuff at those meets.
Gotcha. Yeah, it was crazy because the day before NXN was such a beautiful sunny day. A lot of people were
Right.
thinking like, just, man, you're gonna do so good with this beautiful weather. But man, next day, I think wasn't it like kind of like the one of the worst? I'm not sure, but I heard something about like one of the worst weather. Was it?
It was brutal, and I probably felt like we had just come from nationals where our
Mm.
weather was brutal in
Uh,
Terre Haute, so I was just like over it. I'm like, I want a sunny day. um
Sure.
and so I was like, I got to get to Foot Locker now. Foot Locker is always great for the coaches
Sure.
because you're just like, it's great weather. But it was pretty, yeah, hard rain, really, really muddy and
Uh,
cold. It's just like the toughest conditions to run in as a distance runner.
right. And I saw like everybody fall, like a lot of people falling down and racing, and also just like everybody's trying to like when they go to loop, like everyone's just running to the other side, and
Yeah.
it's kind of chaotic. So
Yeah, I love those meets though. I mean, I'm just
yeah,
still
thanks.
such a big fan of the sport, and so even yeah, at that level, I mean, I geek out on that stuff too. It's really cool to see that level, and those kids competing against each other, just like it is in college, just like it is in professional level. I really enjoy just getting to witness those kids competing against each other.
Mhm. Gotcha. I was wondering, what would you say is like the most challenging part of your job and the most rewarding, fulfilling part?
Ooh, um, I think a challenging part is you just you it's unconventional in many ways where you're just like you have sometimes where you're working 7 days a week. You got meets back to back and you're working all day. Like there's some times where you're just like you're really drained because it's not a normal work type of schedule. And things come up, things are unpredictable and come up at different times. And so I think you have to be someone that's really flexible and someone that's not going to get too worked up. And there's definitely times where coaches, you need a break. Like you need to take your time to like go do what you need to do to reset. And I think we have a great coaching staff, and particularly Coach Smith is so good at this as a director of like allowing his assistants and talking about when we need that reset,
Mhm.
so that we can be really effective at our jobs. And so and we're all looking out for each other, particularly as staff members. And I think that's super important to have. And then I'm really lucky to have the people I work with. But yeah, man, there's times where you're just like tapped out, like you've gone so hard for so long, and you need a break. And so yeah, that part of it can be super challenging when you're at a track meet that distance races are going till midnight, and you're up at 8 a.m., 9 a.m. the next morning for your, for more events. Like it's all day, every day. There's some really, yeah, long hard work days, and you're responsible for your kids, and it's a lot. And so but it's super rewarding as well, right? Like I think if it was just challenging for challenging's sake, like that would be rough, but like it's still really rewarding to go through that process. But it can be exhausting as a coach sometimes in certain times of the year. And then yeah, the most rewarding thing is just being around these people. Like it's cool. Like yeah, I've been on the national championship podium, winning the national championship with our guys team, seeing individuals win, big time perform, all these things, and those are so fun and so rewarding. But like ultimately it comes down to the privilege of being able to have relationships and work with these people, and them have trust in us as coaches, and to get to work through that stuff together as human beings is really, really cool. Like I've used the word privilege. I feel so privileged to be at a place like NAU and be in Flagstaff, Arizona, with people like Mike Smith and the rest of our coaching staff and the people on this team. It's I have a lot of gratitude for what I get to do with these people. And so and it's just really, it's intimate, right? Like you get to build authentic connections, relationships with people. You get to be vulnerable with people. You get to see people in their best. You get to see people in their worst. And with that brings, man, you can be exhausted from that. It can be really hard and challenging, but it's really gratifying, I think, to be in a position where you get to live life with people that way. And I'm really grateful for the platform that we have in the NCAA, and in particular here at NAU, to get to work with our kids in that way. And I think it's super rewarding, and I really enjoy spending my life and my time right now largely doing that, and so but yeah, it can, you got to be careful to balance that. I've got 3 kids at home and a family, and so for me it's doing that job, but prioritizing my family with that as well, and that can be challenging at sometimes too. And so the most credit probably goes to my wife more than me or anybody else. And so yeah, it's a pretty, I love what I get to do. I think it's amazing what we're doing here at NAU, and the people that get to be a part of it, and now and in the future. It's pretty special.
You mentioned about like winning, like NAU winning, the nationals. I was wondering, can you walk me through and share the story of your experience of the first time, being assistant coach and NAU winning?
Yeah, so in 2016, it was such a cool year. It was a unique year in that Coach Hines had announced that he was only going to be here for that rest of the semester because his wife got like her dream job at the Houston Space Center in Houston, and so they were going to move. And so NAU hired Mike Smith that summer, and so Mike Smith and Eric Hines. So we had 2 directors at the same time, and me. And so then Coach Smith took over officially as the head coach in January when Coach Hines left. And so it was a super unique year in that, I was working with 2 directors as an assistant, and we had a really good team, and we thought we had a good shot to win the national championship on the men's side in cross country. And it was really cool. It was hard, I think, every season coaches can tell you stories of the hardships and the challenging parts of what happened during, the training and whatever it may be. And that season was no exception. There were great moments. There were really tough moments that nobody knows about. And so, yeah, I remember that was back in Terre Haute, and it was still it was a really gratifying season. It was really gratifying to see how Coach Smith and Coach Hines worked together so well, with no ego, and I just learned so much from watching those guys work together in that position. It could have been so easy to just like have an ego and that be weird, but it wasn't. They just meshed so well together. Coach Hines did such a great job of welcoming in Coach Smith. Coach Smith did such a great job of being like, "Hey man, this is still your program. I'm just here to learn right now." They did a great job of including me and all that. Like it was really special. And then and we had a great group of guys. You know, Footsum, Zen Selassie was on the team, Andy Truard, Corey Glines. We just had some really awesome guys on that team. Matt Baxter just come in, and Tyler Day. Like it was fun. Jordy Beamish was on that team, and it was just cool to see them execute in territories that they hadn't been in before. You know, winning everything, and just being able to make it about the team. And so yeah, it was strange because when we finished that race in 2016, we didn't know we had won. I
Oh,
remember like the finish shoot was just so weird. It was a very like kind of sober, like everybody was kind of down because you didn't we kind of didn't think we had won.
mm,
And I actually remember seeing, I'm good friends with Sean McGordy, and Sean was running for Stanford at the time, and he comes out of shoot, and I looked at him, and we both kind of shook our heads, and he was like, "Did you guys win?" I was like, "Did you guys win?" Like we both, like everybody was feeling really weird after that race. And I mean, we walked all the way back to our tent, which is kind of like 600 meters away, and I just remember it was like quiet, and
really?
we just didn't know. And I mean, I think they were just like kind of just like hugging each other and just like,
Uh,
"Hey, we're here together," but like we don't know what happened. And um yeah, we got down to the tent, and it was a while. Like we were just like sitting there like, I don't know what happened. And then a couple guys, I think it was like Harvey Nelson and Tyler Day, came screaming into the tent that we had won, and then it just went crazy from there. But it was special. It was super special because it was Coach Hines that was it for him. And so
oh
for
wow.
him to do what he did, in winning NAU's first title in school history,
Dang.
and for us to do it in that way was yeah, that one was, I'll always remember that. It was super special. But there was a lot that went into that. And the year before, we redshirted a bunch of guys, and we were terrible. Like we were eighth at our regional. I mean, we had to go
Oh,
through
dang.
some tough times to get to that moment. And it was just cool to see those guys come together, because man, it's really hard to get all your guys clicking. It's hard to get your best 7 guys healthy to the line that day. and
All right.
and I think that's what we've been able to do the last 4 years, and it's been pretty special. But that first one in particular, yeah, I never thought I'd be a young. I mean, I was probably, I don't know, 24 years old at the time,
Dang.
being on a podium, holding up a national championship trophy with those guys. But it was even more special just to be a part of everything that led to that, and then being involved in the relationships and the everyday practice, and again having the privilege to be a part of that, was the most special thing. The podium, that's just a few minutes of time, and
Right.
it's special, but it's probably not even the most rewarding thing in all of it. It's
Mm,
it's the moments that led to it.
got it. I was wondering, was the transition not that big of a difference, or with the coaching?
It was great. It was really good. And I attribute that to Coach Hines and Coach Smith. I think they did a great job with that. And we had a great coach in Coach Hines, and they did a great job in hiring a great coach in Coach Smith. And yeah, and it was so cool to, me and Coach Smith just clicked really well together right away. And yeah, and I'm really happy to continue working with him. But Coach Smith, I think, just kind of took where we were and took it to a whole nother level. And he's just phenomenal at what he does. I think he's the best coach in the country. I get to work with him every day, so I see a lot more than other people see. But we are extremely fortunate to have him, because he's very, very incredible at what he does. And so it was really cool to go through that transition. But it wasn't. Coach Hines, Coach Smith did an amazing job working together, and making sure that happened. And I think that's helped this program immensely.
Got you. I was wondering, I saw that you serve at your church and led worship as well. That's amazing. I was wondering, like, what your story and your relationship with God started.
Yeah, that's a great question, and I appreciate you asking that. You know, I haven't played in a while actually here in
Oh,
Flagstaff. Just with the coaching schedule. But I used to do a lot of play guitar and would sing at churches, particularly in college, and I had a good buddy that had a youth group that I would help out at and stuff. And so,
that's awesome.
yeah, it's I my faith and my relationship with God is the most important thing in my life, and actually was a huge reason that I got into coaching as well.
Mm.
Just because I was reading the Bible, and I was reading through Jesus's life on earth and in the Gospels in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and one thing I saw is like he took these 12 guys that were called the disciples, and he just poured into these guys for 3 or 4 years. And I was like, oh, that kind of sounds like the setup of coaching, not that I'm Jesus, but I'm like, you really get to work with people intimately for 3 or 4 or 5 years here. And that was one of the first triggers in my mind to kind of pursue college coaching.
Oh,
Is
wow.
to just be in a similar, like, I was like, man, if Jesus did that with 12 guys, like, they would, this is similar numbers and similar things. Like, it seems like it would be a cool opportunity to invest in people really intimately like that. And so, but yeah, it's something that I've been, it's, that faith is, it's my own, and it's really important to me, and it's not from anybody else. And I definitely have deep rooted belief in that, and a lot of the who I am and my coaching and the way I treat people comes from that faith and belief. And so it has a huge impact, I think, on the biggest impact, and then I hope it stays that way of who I am, and how I live my life, for sure is I want to be guided by that.
Mm, awesome. I was wondering, as a Christian believer, what are some good ways to implement your faith through work and your work environment?
I think by being a great example, by being somebody who acts like Jesus did, and that's what the Bible asks us to do as believers in Him. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm not at a Christian school. I'm not in a place where I'm like preaching at practice or anything. But I hope I can be an example to our athletes as somebody um, who loves them, who invests in them, who loves them unconditionally, who is just gonna pour so much into who they are, and that, show the love of Jesus in that way. And I get an opportunity to do that with the relationships that I'm able to have. And so that's such a big way I try to do that. Um and these we have kids, like I said way earlier, like, they come from so many different backgrounds, from so
Right.
many different, whether it be really great or really hard situations. It's everything. And what I've seen is that they all, no matter who you are, the impact of love, the impact of somebody just investing in you and supporting in you
Sure.
in that way is it means a lot. And so
For sure.
um, I want to try to be that example consistently and constantly. And I think if you're able to do that, you really stand out, and it's really meaningful. And the world needs a lot of that right now.
Sure.
People having a lot of empathy, and people having a lot of support for one another. And so, if I can provide that just to a handful of people here at NAU, then I want to keep doing that, and be really happy that I have that opportunity to do so.
Awesome. Amazing. I was wondering, asking the last question, finishing it off. I was wondering, what are some of your dreams and goals in life and moving on in your aspirations?
Yeah, I've thought about that a lot lately, actually.
Uh,
Something in this career. One day I'd love to be a director. I'd love to have my own program, and I love the idea of just like having a staff to take care of, and having such, I
mhm,
Coach Smith in particular has had such a big influence on my life, and in such a positive way, and what he's gone so above and beyond to mentor me and to help me in ways that I can't even share. Like, it's made a big impact on me. And so to have an opportunity to be a director myself, and to be able to do that for other people, particularly on other coaches, is something I would love the opportunity to have. Not, and that's, then you have, athletes to do that with as well. But it's meant a lot what he's done for me in my life, and as a director, and as a boss, and as a friend, and as all these things. And so I would love to have that opportunity to do the same thing when it's the right time, and when I'm ready. And that's not something I want to rush or anything, and want to make sure that I'm continuing to grow in the ways that I need to be growing right now in my position here. But then, yeah, I've always been someone that's super competitive, that has big aspirations, that never thinks like, anything's out of my reach. And so, I mean, a big thing I want to continue. I never want to lose sight of being a great father and a great husband, more than even being a great coach or anything else. Like, I want my kids to have a really great father, and I'm figuring out fatherhood every day, and it's a challenging piece, and it's never anything you can be completely perfect at. But that's something that's like, it's not a little thing. I think it's the biggest thing. And then just things like, I've got things like, and I haven't shared this with a lot of people, but I want to write a book. There's like different things I want to do. I really want to do a lot with with some different outreach ideas, and helping certain people in different ways, maybe even outside of running. I want to keep investing in people. I have some really close friends that I want to make sure that I'm living life with those guys, and investing in people, just really above and beyond. But yeah, I mean, my biggest aspirations are to continue to be a positive example of Jesus, like I mentioned earlier, and to invest in people, and hopefully that I can continue to grow to be somebody that continually is like, if you come into contact with me and build a relationship, and that you come away, hopefully I've been being positively affected, and that's not something I'm perfect at, and it's just something I'm continuing to grow. But those are huge aspirations for me. But also just being patient, and not just living life right now. How can I be better today? How can I impact somebody today? And if I keep doing that, I have a good feeling that a lot of really cool things will come of that, and not like being super pressured about like, hey, I've got to achieve this, achieve that, achieve this. I just want to keep trying to invest in people, and and I think that'll lead to really good things. And I don't know exactly what they'll be.
Got you. Oh, Mr. Cornfield, well, I can't thank you enough for just how grateful I am for your time, and for answering my question, and taking time to talk to me. Thank you so much. It means a lot, and I really appreciate it, Mr. Cornfield.
Yeah, James, thanks. And thanks for investing in this sport, and into people in this sport. And I love that you're putting yourself out there by having these conversations, by posting them online. I know that takes some courage, right? You're putting yourself out there, and keep doing that. We need more people like that. So I appreciate you taking time to chat with me too, and be interested in my story. So I appreciate that.
For sure, my pleasure. Well, thank you so much. I hope you have a
All
good.
right, James. Yeah, you too, man. Bye.
Bye.